there are the facts, and then there are the stories that we make up about the facts. And I want to tell you about what just happened to me. So I've known this principle that my sister taught me about there are facts and there's the stories about the facts, I don't know, a couple of decades. And for the most part, I do live my life like that. And I'm able to have a conversation with myself and say, you know, are you just making up a story, or are you operating and behaving and reacting to the facts? So I just left brunch with a girlfriend that I have not sat and shared a meal with in 10 years. It has been 10 years since we sat down and had a heart-to-heart and talked. We've run into each other once or twice at an event where we didn't really we weren't mad at each other or anything. We just were like hello across the room. But it has been 10 years since we sat down and shared a heart-to-heart, a meal, a one-on-one. And I had my stories that I made up about the facts that happened. And in my mind, she didn't want to be friends with me anymore. And she had her story that she had made up based on some things that had happened, that she thought somehow I was disappointed in her. And I know for a fact that the story she made up could not be any further from the truth, further from the truth, because I think the world of her. And for me, I took her busyness as I don't want to be your friend anymore. Like I interpreted it as she was being very kind, and instead of saying I don't want to be your friend anymore, she was just going to blow me off when I reached out. And so because of those things kind of happening simultaneously, we lost connection. And a lot of life has happened in the meantime, and a lot of things have happened in my friend's life that I am so sad I didn't know was going on. And also because of this freaking living in the story, I was not able to be a friend to her and be there for her when she has been going through some pretty major things. So I am here to encourage you to reach out to the person in your life that you have distanced from. And I'm not talking about the person who's toxic and unsafe that you're not speaking to anymore because it's what's best for you, because there are those relationships that you just don't need to rekindle. I'm talking about if you have a family member or a friend that you really miss and you feel like, you know, in retrospect, maybe I am reacting to a story that I've made up because of what somebody told me, or the tone of their voice, or I read a text and I inferred all this tone of voice that actually wasn't there. And so when we got together at this lunch, I reached out to her. I said, I miss you. You may not be up for it, but if you would like to get together, I would love to have lunch. And she immediately was like, yes, let's do it. So it's been a week. We're here at the restaurant. We're in line to order. We're making a little bit of small talk. Hey, how you doing? Look great. Haven't seen you so long. And we sit down, and I know from business that when I have a difficult call to make, I need to make it immediately. When I get a phone call and they say, this loan is not going to close, okay, this deal is falling through, and here's why. The first thing, of course, is to try to save the deal. But if you can't, you have to immediately pick up the phone and call the client and say, unfortunate news, we're not going to close, and here's why. It's the facts, okay? And you do it immediately. Why do we not do that in friendships and relationships? So we sit down at the table and I say, okay, before we go any further, I want to know, do we need to clear the air? I don't know why it is that we have lost touch. I have really grieved the loss of our friendship. Those are the words I use. I have grieved the loss of our friendship. I love you. You're meaningful to me. Our relationship is meaningful to me. And we became so disconnected, and I'm not sure why. And I said, I want to tell you what I think happened, and then I want you to tell me what you think happened. And when I tell you how that conversation went, I'm not going to tell you all the details, but it was so silly. The stories that both of us had made up couldn't be further from the truth for the other person. Basically, life lifed, and it hit her pretty hard, and she was overwhelmed, and she was really busy. And she thought that I was disappointed in her over some things, and mainly over what somebody who doesn't know either one of us well at all got in her ear about. And she's so kind, and she's so she's just such a good person, and she was devastated that she thought I was somehow disappointed in her, and this person who was in her ear made up a lie. And instead of either one of us calling the other one up and saying, you know, Jane Doe said this and this doesn't sound like you to me, and I want to clear the air. Is this what happened? Is this how you feel? Or instead of me picking up the phone and calling her and saying, you know, I feel like that you're blowing me off and saying you're busy when really you don't want to be my friend anymore. And I want to give you the opportunity to tell me. If you don't want to be my friend anymore, it's fine, but I want you to tell me so that I'm not living in a story I've made up. And so when we sat down and I said, let's clear the air. I miss you. I've grieved the loss of our friendship. Let's talk about it. And she's like, we don't have any air to clear. And then we were just kind of amazed at how we'd been living in the story. So I am encouraging you, if there is a relationship that you're grieving that is safe for you to rekindle, I want you to reach out to that person and just rip the Band-Aid off. Send them a text. Better yet, send them a video message of yourself. Record a video and say this: you've been on my mind. I have really been grieving the loss of our friendship and our connection. You may not be up for it, but if you would like to get together and have coffee or lunch, please let me know. I would love to see you next week. And then let it go. Because the worst they can say is no. And they can add a few curse words if they want to, but the worst they can say is no. All right? But the best thing that can happen is you get together and you talk about it and you realize you've both been living in a story and you haven't been living in the facts, and you get reconnected and you pick up right where you left off, and you can then be there for each other. Because let me tell you, I've missed out on supporting my friend. She could have used a friend, and I can only control myself. And even though we both were victims of living in the story, my accountability and my responsibility is that I didn't pick up the phone and clear the air with her about the story that I thought was true. And my failure to do that caused me to not be able to be there for her and support her. And she had a lot of things going on and could have used a friend. So send the text, send the video, call, make the effort. And even if they say no, you will feel better because you've made the effort and you've communicated to the other person that you're open. And it may take a while and they may come around or they may not, but you won't be any worse off if they don't. But hopefully what will happen is you'll reconnect and you'll rekindle. And that effort will make you feel better. Really, it will.